The University of Pennsylvania issuing a warning about an online challenge that's sparking serious concern. Multiple people assaulted on campus, and it's likely all for clicks. The school is now working to stop the violence.
UPenn, one of the top schools in the United States of America, recently issued a warning to their students to be on the lookout in and around the area surrounding the campus for groups of teens, groups of youths who will walk up to them and either with an open fist or a closed fist in an unprovoked manner, smack them in the face or sucker punch them while filming it for a TikTok challenge. And of course, this has caused a bunch of different local news segments in order to go into overdrive, into cover-up mode. But in reality, in actuality, if you follow this channel, if you follow the works of the late Colin Flaherty, you know exactly what this is. Sure, there's a TikTok little spin on this particular version of events in that the perpetrators are filming it themselves, but what this is well documented as, going back decades in this country, is two things in combination. The first, and this should be obvious, it's the knockout game, where mostly disproportionately black youths attack and sucker punch random individuals that they find to be weaker than them. They sucker punch them for entertainment. They laugh about it. And of course, it has serious implications. And by the way, it also has a serious cover-up element behind it, in that local news media stations like the one we're talking about today refuse to acknowledge its existence. The second thing is also something that is very true in the United States of America, which is typically elite campuses in this country, although not all the time, are surrounded by ghetto trash areas that the students who attend these universities should never venture out in. And I know a lot of people who went to the University of Chicago or went to USC or went to, Tulane University in New Orleans, received an orientation, a warning about the surrounding areas, about how dangerous it is. And despite the fact that everybody likes to play the politically correct game, the reason the knockout game is occurring here is because you have high crime areas that are disproportionately black, and since black youths are the ones who are doing the knockout game, typically, most of the time throughout the history of its existence, this is what you can expect. And yet, the local news media is not only going to obfuscate it, they're going to tell us what they think is the real problem behind this. And when you hear it, you are going to lose your mind. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who supports my university over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
No new updates. We just talked to a police officer, though, who said he's concerned that some of these young kids doing this TikTok challenge, that's what they're calling it, a new TikTok challenge. He's concerned that they're going to possibly get injured themselves because they could hit the wrong person, right? And then get seriously injured.
So first of all, I just want to say whoever this unnamed police official actually is, he should be fired immediately. He should be fired on the spot right now, because when the story is a bunch of youths, and by the way, we're talking about black teenagers, they're the ones that are doing this, make no mistake about it, are sucker punching random university students. By the way, they happen to disproportionately be white university students. A lot of them are females, a lot of them are Asians, or other vulnerable groups, or groups that these teens think are vulnerable. Yet the first thing that the police chief ends up reiterating to this local news media person, and the first thing that she reports from the ground of the scene of the crime where these are occurring, is that there's concern about the youths that are engaging in the sucker punching, that they might sucker punch somebody that they assume to be weak, and that person will tank the punch and then be able to kick the crap out of these criminal teens. That's the number one concern of them. That's what they're worried about. That's absolutely insane. But honestly, should we be surprised? This is a left-wing area. They have Larry Krasner as the district attorney, who, although recently he has started prosecuting repeat offenders, and that's why Philadelphia's homicide rate is dropping, he was still, for most of his time in office, a left-wing Soros DA. So in reality, it wouldn't be hard to imagine a situation where one of these youths, one of these teens, end up sucker punching somebody. That person happens to be white, and God forbid, a straight white male. He ends up beating the crap out of said teenager, and then suddenly we get a real prosecution, but not against the mob, not against the teens that are participating in this TikTok challenge, which, by the way, is a challenge that is older than TikTok. It is the knockout game against the person who defended themselves, because that's exactly what you would expect from a left-wing city like this. That's exactly what you would expect from a left-wing Soros DA like Krasner. So yeah, that is the result that you're ultimately going to get. So maybe, just maybe, the police officer or the police official who gave this warning to the media is giving like a four-dimensional chess warning, in that he understands that the only way that there will be consequences for the knockout game in Philadelphia is if, again, the perpetrators end up getting hurt, because they're just innocent Baba Angel Aladdins. I mean, I think we also have to talk about, and I know a lot of you are getting a little bit weary of this, where poverty was during the commission of these crimes, because if we can identify what poverty was wearing, maybe, just maybe, the police in Philadelphia can put out an APB for poverty, and we could finally arrest poverty for committing these crimes for TikTok views, because we all understand that if you are a person who has an income below a certain amount, you have no choice but to sucker punch random university students at an elite school, thus ruining the surrounding area of said elite school.
Let's take a look at some video that Fox 29's Steve Keeley obtained. He obtained this video showing University of Pennsylvania police responding to one of several recent unprovoked attacks on Penn students. Now, because of these attacks, Penn police put out this alert saying there have been multiple recent reports from Penn students and other community members of groups of young people slapping or striking individuals in the head on or near Penn's campus, specifically in the area of 40th to 38th Street from Market to Locust Street. The victims are approached by one or more members of the group, who then, unprovoked, strike the unknown victim with open hand or a closed fist.
So the local news media also ends up pulling up video of this, and when I say video of this, I mean the most useless, the least identifying video humanly possible, which is an overhead shot of police responding after attacks by these groups, by these teens, by these youths, rather than, you know, the viral videos that are going viral on TikTok of them participating in the knockout game. Now, I'm not going to play those videos for you because they are violent, but if you look them up, if you know anything about the surrounding area around Penn and the demographics over there, then you already understand who these youths are. You already understand who these teenagers are. You already understand what these groups are actually constituted of. And again, if you understand the history of the knockout game, which apparently the local news media doesn't understand it, even though you can look it up and then put Philadelphia into Google and find decades worth of stories of this exact same thing occurring, then yeah, you'll get that these are disproportionately black teens, if not wholly black teens. Again, this is an activity that they very often participate in. We see it percolating around the country in different various times. The fact that it's going viral on TikTok now is actually more incidental than anything, because these are documented instances that date back, again, decades in this country. And the university is being very soft about who they're actually labeling as members of these groups, because we all know, we all understand that if these were white teenagers and they were sucker punching disproportionately non-white people, this would be a national news story. Everybody would be freaking out about it. Everybody would be panicking about it. However, in this particular case, it gets ignored. Now, I will also point out that another strategy in terms of the knockout game, in order to avoid actually discussing what's going on, is the fact that what the police will end up doing and what the prosecutor will end up doing is prosecuting as few people as humanly possible involved in the actual attack. So normally, these are groups. Sometimes they're as big as 10, sometimes they're as big as 20, but you'll only have one or two people actually commit the punch. You'll only have one or two people actually do the robbing and all the other stuff associated with these random attacks. But rather than actually prosecute the entire group, which, by the way, use their strength as a group in order to perpetuate these crimes, typically what you'll end up seeing is that if there are any arrests made, they will limit the arrest to as few people as possible. So it may just be the puncher, not the person who goes into your pockets and steals your phone and your wallet and takes your shoes off of you. Or if it's those people, it's not going to be the 15 other people that are blocking your escape in order to ensure that this robbery ends up happening. So yeah, get ready for that soft nonsense, which, by the way, is aided and abetted by the local media not calling this out out for what it is. It's called the knockout game. And for those of you who are saying it's a serious violent assault, I 100% understand that. But the motivation behind this is, of course, to have fun. That's why the perpetrators are often laughing, according to witness accounts, because to them, it's a game. And you need to understand that mentality if you're going to go after it. And again, not pretend that the issue is we have too much poverty in our society.
There have been multiple recent reports from Penn students and other community members of groups of young people slapping or striking individuals in the head on or near Penn's campus, specifically in the area of 40th to 38th Street from Market to Locust Street. The victims are approached by one or more members of the group who then, unprovoked, strike the unknown victim with open hand or a closed fist. We believe that it is connected to a nationwide social media trend.
Now again, like I said, the statement from the university is incredibly weak, but we're going to end up getting to hear from a bunch of neighbors and students from the university. And one of the things that you'll realize, one of the things that you'll learn is that this is a black neighborhood from the people in the neighborhood and not in the university that, of course, they are talking to. Not that I needed to actually prove that to you, because if you know where UPenn is located, you know that the surrounding area is a black area. And by the way, historically, not a very good area. Again, a similar phenomenon that we see in many of our universities that are the best universities in and around certain areas or certain regions. Typically, they're surrounded by piss poor communities. Again, not all. Obviously, Brown is actually in a nice neighborhood. I've been there. Harvard's actually in a pretty decent area, but there's a bunch of schools in the country, and you guys know this full and well, that are absolutely located in the straight up ghetto.
You don't go around doing that to people.
They just be trying to get like TikTok views and stuff like that.
Obviously, there's a line drawn between, playful fun and when things get violent.
The grown-ups are acting like kids, the kids are acting worse, and it's not that shocking to me. It's sad.
Again, get the demographic breakdown of those particular people interviewed. Now, I do believe, because the young guy actually had a backpack, that he might have been a student over at UPenn, but the two people in the neighborhood that they interviewed, the elderly individuals that are beyond university age, those people happen to be black. And by the way, I've looked at other local news segments, and guess what? Similar trends among the surrounding population.
I feel like that's nutty. You don't get no cool points for that.
More shocking and sad is what happened this week to Penn neighbor Jake Dahl.
I was going to get Chipotle with my kid in my stroller, just like I am right now, and 3 kids came running around the corner from McDonald's, and all 3 of them had guns on them, and they pointed them at me. And they tried to get me to give them everything in my pockets, and I looked at them and I said, "You guys are nuts."
Now again, in this particular local news segment, we actually have a victim of an attempted armed robbery where 3 kids, 3 youths, all of them had guns. Again, no description for anybody out there in the audience, tried to rob this guy while he's walking to Chipotle with his baby in the stroller, and this is obviously disgusting behavior. But again, what's more disgusting is that the local news media is not even giving us a description. We're not seeing any surveillance video, and we know in a modern American city there's plenty of surveillance video of these kind of things, not to mention all the businesses that would have surveillance video. And what's more disgusting about this is that this local news segment that again obscures information that would be crucial for these kids, for these youths, for these teens, says everything you need to know. And I need you guys to understand this 100%. You absolutely need to know that if you're in and around the UPenn area, your risk of being victimized by the knockout game goes up if the group of teens that is near you happens to be a group of young black teenagers. That is an absolute fact. That is an absolute reality. You need to understand that. And everybody in the local news media that is obfuscating these facts, that is not showing you images of these suspects, who, by the way, are still at large, they are aiding and abetting those suspects. And UPenn, being the wussified organization that they actually are, not giving their kids proper warnings, also participating in it. Again, this is something that can be resolved. Behavior can be changed. This can be corrected. You can do law enforcement action in order to deter this, but when you cover it up because you don't like the demographics of the people committing the crimes, that just makes sure that there are more crimes going on and people are more unsuspecting of it. So yeah, in my opinion, it's actually more racist to obfuscate the identity of these people because you wouldn't do that for any other race. And essentially, essentially what you're saying is that you have no expectations for black behavior in and around this particular area. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the knockout game coming back to Philadelphia. Till next time.